everyone. So finally it's day 3 of the Bible reading challenge, and today I'm be reading, I believe, Genesis chapter 6 to 7. It depends on how many chapters I can read in an hour. And right now it's 10 p.m. here in the Philippines. It's very late, and because I couldn't start earlier in the morning, I had work, and also there was a dinner appointment in the afternoon. So overall, you could say that I was pretty busy today, and so this was the only time I could do the Bible reading challenge. And yeah, stay tuned. So, hey guys, I just finished Genesis chapter 6 to 7, and I love these chapters very much. But right now, I'm just gonna give you some of my takeaways from these chapters, and of course, I did some research, so please bear with me, okay? Now, my first takeaway would be from chapter 6, which is about the verse, "And the Lord said, My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh, and his days shall be 120 years. Now, you might think, what am I confused about? But I wasn't sure about the definition or the meaning behind the line, "Yet his days shall be 120 years." I thought that it would be about God giving a limitation to humans' lifespan, but I tried to research more about it, and when I did my research, there were interpretations similar to mine, that God is declaring that from now on, the maximum human lifespan will be reduced to 120 years compared to the much longer lives recorded in the earlier generations. Which, for example, like Methuselah, he lived for like 969 years. But there is also a post online or an article online rather, that said that this is a misconception, because there was no mention of any lifespan being reduced, or God's message on this particular verse was not clear or very specific. And another is, I tried to look up online humans who live more than 120, or who reach 120 years old after Christ, his death. So there was one record, and the name of the person is John Calment, if I'm correct, and he lived for 122 years. But what a coincidence that it's really still close to 120. Maybe she was just blessed for another 2 years by God. Maybe she was living a really, really good life, and he or she walked with God. But aside from that, scientists believe that approximately the lifespan of humans is only until 120, and if they exceed that number, it's extremely rare. So, what a coincidence that it is mentioned in the Bible, though. What a coincidence that God Himself said the lifespan of human will be reduced to 120, which in my case I would say that, wow, um, God really does exist. God is alive. God is real. You know, so this particular verse made me understand a lot of things about Christ, and also how um, how he sees sin as a really heavy thing because he loses patience, um, putting a limit to a human's lifespan, and also basically flooding the earth as a consequence to humans' actions and sinful acts. I mean, we can't see God's personality here, that He is also a God whose patience has limits. Yeah? So, God doesn't like us human beings to be sinful. And it's even more true that now we, it's even more true now because not only do we see it today, but it's even recorded. It's even from the earliest time of human existence. So this is amazing. Then I'm gonna proceed to my second takeaway, which is about there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown. Now, um, why is this a takeaway for me? Because I was able to research more about the giants being referred here and what its connection to the sons of God who came unto the daughters of men and bare children. Um, so at first, when I read this particular verse, actually, I was really confused. What's the connection between the giants and the sons of God? Because there's no, I think at first you would think there's no connection at all. But when I researched about it, there were some speculations and debates or interpretations that um, the sons of God here being referred to are or is either um, the fallen angels, the godly descendants of Seth, or the royal or powerful human rulers during that time. And then when I found out about this, I came to realize that if that's the case, or if that is true, that the fallen angels are the sons of God, now you see the connection between the first line and the second, I believe, line. And in this case, it would be understandable why their children would be mighty men of the old, and they are or they were powerful and legendary figures, ancient warriors, kings, or heroes of the time. Um, because from what I know, the fallen angels, of course, are what we know as the giants, and um, they in the Bible they're called Nephilim, also known as the fallen ones. And I remember I heard that Goliath himself um, was from the same bloodline or ancestry. That is why he he was a huge, huge person. So it would be understandable. I mean, I think Goliath himself is a proof that giants or the fallen angels um, took daughters of men as wives and then bear children. Because Goliath is known as a powerful, legendary figure during the time of David. Imagine that. And a lot of people feared him. Okay, but yeah, uh, now it's making even more sense, right? Okay, now um, the next takeaway that I'm going to be saying is um, the verse that says Noah was a perfect man in his generations and he walked with God. And in this part, it really reminded me about the standard of Christianity. How, as Christians, we should be perfect men and we should walk with God. Because that way, God will be able to protect us. God will have a covenant with us, just like how He made a covenant with Noah and protect him and his family from the flood. So, in this generations or nowadays, I would say that a lot of people are starting to lose the standards of righteousness and are really becoming sinful. So, although we may be imperfect people, but we should still aim to become a perfect man in the eyes of God. Um, I always hear people say when they make mistakes nowadays, I'm only human. Um, I'm not perfect. And they always say it as a reason, as an excuse to making continuous mistakes and sins. Even though when you when you're a person who's wise, you should be a person who's willing to accept corrections and not give out any excuses. And so it's important to listen. Okay, now, anyways, moving to the next takeaway. My next takeaway is about the line when God commanded Noah to make an ark of gopher wood with rooms and shall pitch it within and without. Now, the last line or phrase, I got really confused, so I looked it up on the internet once again, and I wanted to know what did it mean? Because I felt like there was a more symbolic meaning behind this line. And um, actually, I was right because aside from the symbolism, partly there's actually a real meaning behind the particular words in that phrase. So, first, pitch it within and without here refers, or pitch rather, refers to a tar-like substance or bitumen, a sticky waterproof resin, and Noah was told to coat both the inside and outside of the ark with this substance. And I thought That's really new information for me, because even though I read I have read Genesis before, um, I wasn't able to particularly focus on the specific line. But I realized that when I dug deeper to the meaning behind this, um, I realized that wow, this could actually be a good message for the people, um, especially when you want to talk about the last days. Because the purpose of the pitch was to make the ark watertight, watertight, okay, which is symbolic to our faith. Watertight because in the last days, according to the book of Revelations, Christians should stick as Christians should stick to their beliefs, to Jesus, because you will be challenged in the last days by the devil. The devil will try to threaten you, hurt you, force you into doing things s- so that your fear will take over you and will result to you turning your back to God, which is why we should be watertight. We should um, not exactly watertight, just a metaphor. So we should pitch our fate. You know what I mean? Pitch our fate. And then aside from that, aside from being watertight, another symbolic idea behind this particular phrase is to show that God provides spiritual covering or protection from judgments to those who are faithful to Him. Because that's what He did to Noah. He gave instructions to Noah to do this, 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 so I can cover you from the flood and protect you. And basically, God flooding the earth was a form of judgment to the whole to to humans during that time because of their sinful acts. So for me, if you connect it to the revelations in the last days, we're also gonna need this spiritual covering and protection from judgment. You know? So if I were to create this um particular message, I would entitle it Pitch It Within and Without. Because we should both coat our inside and also the outside. Okay, but anyways, enough of that. Um, aside from that, I learned more about the specific details about how the art was constructed, and I also was able to see the standard of Christianity to Noah because of his obedience. Because in the last verse of chapter 6, it says Noah followed as God commanded. So there was no complaints whatsoever. There was no violent reaction with him whatsoever. He just followed. just followed. And this is this reminded me of how we should be obedient at all times to God. We shouldn't reason out, like, oh Lord, I really want this. I really want this. And then later on you say, let your will be done. But still, Lord, let me have a little bit of it, please. So sometimes we Christians are really tested um, when it comes to their desires as well. So it's really a challenge to obey God. I think one of the hardest things of being a Christian is being obedient, to be honest. Not many Christians um, can completely say that, yes, I'm always obedient to God. Yes, I always follow God. Because there will always be certain points in your life where God will test you and you might fail. You might fail. And so when you fail, you turn your back, you backslide, and it just proves to show that not not in all times um, do you well not you don't basically it means that you don't really follow God all the time, you know. So maybe it would be great to know if there really are Christians out there who would 100% say that, yes, I am always obedient to God. Even me, guys, I sometimes struggle with obedience, and sometimes I would say, um, okay, tomorrow I will fast because I feel like God is telling me to fast in order to get what I want. But then the next day I would say, I change my mind. I'll do it the next day, the next day. So I didn't really obey, no, God's voice at the moment when He told me, or I didn't really follow His specific command. So that proves to be disobedient. Anyways, it's already 22 minutes. um, let's proceed to chapter 7. And in chapter 7, I would say that um, I didn't really have a lot of takeaways for chapter 7 because this is more about the flow of the flooding, the story of the flooding of Jesus. But I was enlightened more about the verse in the 600 year of Noah's life, in the second month, the 17th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up and the windows of heaven were open. This, and the sentence structuring really is somewhat poetic and it's really deep. So I had to look I had to look it up on the internet what each phrases meant. The first one is 600 year of Noah's life. In the second month, the 17th day of the month. This gives a precise date for when the flood began. Noah was 600 years old. The second month, 17th day, indicates how carefully this event is recorded, showing it's not a myth but a historical anchor in the biblical narrative. Not sure about the second month, 17th day, but yeah, it's kind of like a date, probably. And then the second line that says, the same day were all the fountains of great deep broken up. Fountains of great deep refers to subterranean waters, which are underground reservoirs or oceans. Broken up suggests a violent eruption like earthquakes or tectonic ruptures releasing vast amounts of water from beneath the earth. Well, imagine that, right? So it's kind of like related to how to say this, kind of like tsunami. Oh, and it did mention like earthquakes or tectonic ruptures. So yes, it became even more clear what this meant. And the windows of heaven were opened. It's a poetic way to describe the heavens releasing torrential rain. Okay, I think I should have tried to at least decipher the poem or the verse by myself instead of looking it up in the internet immediately. But of course, sometimes we just don't have the time to decipher stuff. Overall, meaning on the specific day in Noah's 600 years, the flood began, water burst forth from underground and poured down from the heavens. Then there's the symbolism and theology that fountains of the deep refers to Earth's foundations shaking, which meant a divine disruption of creation order. Then the windows of heaven refer to the divine wrath or blessing, used elsewhere in scripture too. And precise timing refers to God's actions are not random, they are measured and purposeful. Okay, so yeah, I think those were all the takeaways I was able to get from these chapters. Imagine, you only read 2 chapters, but you're learning a lot already, and it took you 1 hour because you had to do some more research. And even when you're creating a takeaway video, it would take 27 minutes. And I think it just shows how wonderful the Lord is with his word. And there's so much to learn. This is still day 3, and I'm not even in day 4. Yeah, 5, 6. I think there's still a lot of ways to go. So yeah, that is all for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video and for listening to my takeaways. Bye bye.